Good morning, agents, and welcome to another daily episode of Targeted Loot Today, your daily farming guide for Monday, December 28th. In this series, we cover a lot. We got the Targeted Loot map, Dark Zone exclusives to farm for, highlights from the weekly vendor resets, and of course, build and farming suggestions as well. I'm Shadow Gaming, and if you enjoy this video, consider pressing the subscribe and like buttons below, and remember to comment below as well if you have any questions whatsoever. Otherwise, let's get this video started. Alright, agents, so starting off with the Dark Zones and of course vendor reset highlights, always in that big bottom left overlay that pops up right now. I recommend in the Dark Zone East the Claws Out holster. You can pick that up for 152 DZ resources, and it resets tomorrow on everything, so just grab what you need to get today. As far as targeted loot goes in the Dark Zones, we do have masks over here in DZ West today. The only Dark Zone exclusive mask you can farm for is the Hollow Man mask with 8% damage to health. Now, of course, there is two exotic masks, the Coyotes mask and Vile mask, which you can farm for as well in the Dark Zone. And the other ones would be the named ones, which is the Punch Drunk mask with 20% headshot damage baked into it. That one I would farm Douglas and Harding for, though. Moving on over to DZ South, we got Sokol of Concern. I usually only cover Dark Zone exclusives, so I'm going to move on over to DZ East, where we have Seska. Now, there is a Dark Zone exclusive for Seska. That's the Devil's Due backpack with Perfect Clutch. I don't really recommend it, so now let's just move on to the North Side Targeted Loot highlights. Alright, agents, we're over here on the North Side Targeted Loot highlights. Now, starting off with Camp White Oak, we do have Murakami Industries. And remember, if you're looking for an extra 10% skill duration on a turret and drone build, you can use Murakami instead of two-piece Hana U. So that's something that I could recommend for sure. Otherwise, we got Petrov over here at Coney Island Amusement Park. You can farm for that Contractor's Gloves with 8% damage to armor. Great on all LMG builds. Or if you're stacking damage to armor with like two pieces Walker Harris & Co., Lady Death, and assault rifles. Then, of course, we have Douglas and Harding at Manning National Zoo. Like I told you guys in the DZ West, I would farm this for the Punch Drunk mask with 20% headshot damage baked into it. You know, I always farm the brand, not the type. It yields better results. Kenley College is, of course, closed. In the Summit, you pick your own targeted loot. So let's move on to the West Side now. Alright, agents, over here on the West Side targeted loot highlights, starting off with gear sets, we got Negotiator's Dilemma at Downtown West. Great double LMG build I'll put in the top right card now. That utilizes 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma, 1 piece of Grupo Sombro gloves, and the Coyotes mask. I used the Pestilence, the Bullet King, the Neg EV. All 3 of those LMGs are great on that build. Especially the Bullet King, you know, a lot of crowd control DPS, so it's great. Next up, we got Rigger over here at the White House. Rigger is great, you know, it gives you instant cooldowns for deployable skills, or if you change targets on like a turret, drone, or whatever, it gives you a lot of extra skill damage from that 4th talent. So I definitely recommend it, but I don't have an exact build I recommend yet, but it definitely is the replacement for Hardwired. Next up, we got Foundry Bulwark at Tidal Basin Stronghold. Now remember, the chest and backpack are Iron Horse raid exclusive, so always keep that in mind when you're farming for Foundry Bulwark. Otherwise, it's a great tank build, a gear set. You know, just throw 4 pieces on with 2 pieces of like Bellstone Armory or the Emperor's Guard knee pads for armor regen. You want armor regen all over this thing. And yeah, I'm going to skip Tip of the Spear from now on. So moving on to normal targeted loot, we got Badger Tough at Lincoln Memorial. If you guys are looking for that 0F's chest piece with Perfect Unbreakable, either for a build or your Ridgeway's Pride Part 1 project, today's the day to get it. Lincoln Memorial's fast mission, 3 bosses at the end. I can get it done in 8 minutes, 9 minutes flat with heroic solo. So I would definitely check that out. Next up, we got shotguns at West Potomac Park. So we got 2 exotic shotguns in this game, the Sweet Dreams of the Sandman Talon and the Scorpio with Septic Shock. I highly recommend farming for that Scorpio. It is also a Season 4 reward around level 50, level 55. So definitely get that. I love it with my Hunter's Fury build, which I'll put in the top right card now as well. Otherwise, I would get the 3 best shotguns in the game, the Mop with 10% armor on kill, the Custom M8 70, and the Marine Super 90 with close and personal rolled on them. Next up, we got Walker Harris & Co. over here at the Constitutional Hall area. Now, Walker Harris & Co. is great. You can farm that Shane Killer chest piece with Perfect Headhunter on it for any headshot damage build. And always try to get it rolled with weapon damage, weapon handling, and headshot damage. Crit hit chance and crit hit damage just don't matter in a headshot damage build. And remember, the Matador with Perfect Adrenaline Rush is a Dark Zone exclusive. You'll have to wait for Walker Harris & Co. or backpacks to be targeted loot in the Dark Zone. Next up, we got gloves targeted loot at Foggy Bottom. You can farm the BTSU gloves, which grants overcharge to all, allies that are skill tier 6 as well. We got LMGs up Atomic Event Center today. 2 exotics, Bullet King and Pestilence. Both are very worth farming for. Bullet King, you never have to reload, and the Pestilence, you can get that damage tick over 1,000,000 per tick. Otherwise, there's some named LMGs in the bottom left overlay. I recommend, Carnage with Perfect Sadist and the new Reliable with Perfectly Optimized. Those are my 2 favorites. And really, the last thing I'll mention is chest pieces at Federal Emergency Bunker. Remember, 2 exotic chest pieces in this game, the Tardigrade and Ridgeway's Pride. The Tardigrade you could just straight up farm for. While it is a True Sons chest piece and has a higher drop rate chance of dropping from True Sons missions, you can still just farm chest targeted loot for it. And in Ridgeway's Pride, you of course have to complete the project, or you can have a teammate drop it for you that's already gotten it. Otherwise, let's go check out now what we got on the east side. Alright agents, over here on the east side, targeted loot highlights, starting off with the gear sets. We do have Hunter's Fury at Judiciary Square. Now I'll mention my favorite Hunter's Fury build. 4 pieces of Hunter's Fury, the Death Grip gloves, and of course the Memento backpack. And another alternative Hunter's Fury build that you could run for a little bit more damage would be 4 pieces of Hunter's Fury, the Memento backpack, and a Sokolo chest piece with Intimidate or Obliterate. And then that doesn't, you don't have to run the Death Grips, which are Dark Zone exclusives. Next up, we got Aces and Eights at District Union Arena. So Aces and Eights, great headshot damage gear set. You just mix 3 pieces of Aces and Eights, 2 pieces of Geraldo Holding, 1 being a backpack with Vigilance or Composure, and then of course the Chain Killer chest piece with Perfect Headhunter. You can get over 20 million a headshot with the Mantis. Next up, we got Ongoing Directive at Viewpoint Museum. There's 2 great bleed build damage builds I'll put in the bottom left overlay. First one would be the Ridgeway's Pride, 4 pieces of Ongoing Directive, and an Anarchist Cookbook with Perfect Wicked or a backpack with Wicked on it. And then the second one being 4 pieces of Ongoing Directive, a Badger's Tough backpack with Creeping Death, and the Vile Mask. And then of course we got Eclipse Protocol over here at American History Museum. My favorite fire damage build will be in the top right card now. That is 4 pieces of Eclipse Protocol, and then of course the Imperial Dynasty holster and 1 piece of Golan gear for extra 10% status effects. And then we got Future Initiative at Capitol Building Stronghold. So Future Initiative, the chest and backpack are raid exclusive, just like Foundry Bulwark. But in lieu of that, I would get an Alp Summit chest piece with Empathetic Resolve and backpack with Safeguard. And then Strikers, the last one, Jefferson Plaza. Strikers, I only recommend using 3 pieces for the increased rate of fire and weapon handling for the Merciless exotic rifle. Otherwise, I do not recommend 4 pieces or anything else really. Normal targeted loot, we got knee pads at Southwest. There's 2 exotic knee pads you could farm for in this game, the Ninja Bike Messenger knee pads, and of course Sawyer's knee pads. Otherwise, you can farm for the Fox's pair knee pads with 8% damage to targets out of cover, and I don't see Overlord anywhere, so I would definitely grab those today in the Southwest area if Overlord is not in New York City today. Moving on to Hanayu at Air and Space Museum. Hanayu is that's one of the most sought after backpacks in Title Update 12 probably. The Force Multiplier backpack with Perfect Combined Arms. Every 3 seconds you land a shot, you get this 30% skill damage buff. Definitely worth farming for if you're not using tech support. Then of course we got holsters in East Mall area, one of my favorite places to farm control points. You got 3 exotic holsters in this game. The Waveform exotic holster, which you can get at level 100 of Season 4 rewards. And then of course you have the Imperial Dynasty holster for skill damage as well. Same with the Waveform. And the Dodge City holster for DPS builds, headshot damage builds, and pistol damage builds. Now, of course, you can farm for the Forge holster with 50% extra shield health as well. Rifles over here at Federal Triangle. There's 2 exotic rifles, the Merciless and the Diamondback, both of which I don't ever really recommend. I never use them personally. What I do recommend is the named rifles, like the Surge with Perfect Spike and the Baker's Dozen with Perfect Lucky Shot. Both of those are definitely worth farming for in the light zone. Just because the Harmony with Perfect Instinct does not drop outside of the dark zone, like unless it's special circumstances, just like the Dark Winter. Otherwise, you can't actually reliably farm for it outside of the dark zone. Next up, we got submachine guns at Jefferson Trade Center. 3 exotics, Lady Death, Backfire, and the Chatterbox. If you haven't got the Chatterbox because it's a quest only, I'll put my quick guide video in the top right card now. Otherwise, the Dark Winter and the Apartment are Dark Zone exclusive, and I will put all the ways to get it in the bottom left overlay right now, just kind of like, for like the Harmony that I mentioned earlier. Then, of course, what I do recommend for named SMGs would be the Safety Distance with Perfect Outsider and the Grudge with Perfect Vindictive. Both of those are, able to drop outside of the Dark Zone. And then last but not least, we got Assault Rifles at Grand Washington Hotel. You got 2 exotic Assault Rifles you could farm for outside of the Dark Hours raid, and that's going to be the Chameleon with Adaptive Instincts and the Capacitor with Capacitance. Now, both of those are good for DPS builds, especially the Chameleon. If you're going to be using any skill damage build, always run the Capacitor. You can get that by completing 5 summit challenges, so definitely grab that up when you can. Otherwise, the 4 best named assault rifles I'd recommend is the new Test Subject with Perfectly in Sync, Mechanical Animal with Future Perfection, the Burnout named FAMAS, and then of course the Maniac named Military AKM. Alright, agents, now let's go check out what we got in New York City. Alright, agents, last but not least, we got New York City targeted loot highlights, and starting off with Two Bridges area, Overlord. This is where I would have farmed for the Fox's Prayer knee pads for sure. Next up, we got Providence Offensive Battery Park. You can farm it for the Sacrifice of Perfect Glass Cannon. Definitely worth it, but, you know, I don't personally like using it. You can use it on any skill damage build or DPS build, but it makes me too squishy. I don't want that amplified 60% damage against me. And really, the only other thing I'm going to mention over here in New York City is MMRs at Financial District. You can get the Mantis and the Nemesis. The Nemesis, you do need to get Puck's Blueprint from Grand Washington Hotel invaded first and craft it, or you can have someone drop it like any other exotic to unlock it in the general targeted loot pool. The Mantis is definitely worth farming for any headshot damage build, though. I think it's honestly better than the Nemesis. Otherwise, the named MMRs I would go for is Ekim's Longstick with Perfect Ranger and the White Death, and I would probably just roll Ranger on it. Otherwise, that's all I'm going to recommend for New York City, guys. Alright, agents, well, that was the targeted loot for today. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed my content. It helps me out a lot, and of course, turn on those bell notifications for daily Division 2 content. You can, of course, click the join button below, to become a member of my channel for exclusive perks and extra support. And shout out and thank you to all 5 of my channel members. I really appreciate all the extra support. Everything else will be in the pinned comment and video description below. All links to Shadow Gaming merchandise and weekly vendor resets, all gear and weapon spreadsheets, everything you need to know about this game pretty much. Take care, agents, and be sure to stay tuned for more daily Division 2 content. This is Shadow Gaming signing off. I will see you in the next video. Take care, agents.